Hey, Tiffany, do we have communications with you?
Good morning, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
This call will be recorded.
All right, it looks like it's somebody keeps shutting it off. Did you hear the introduction, Tiffany?
No, we're not hearing anything on our end.
Start over. We'll kick off the State of Nevada Board of Examiners meeting scheduled for today, March 18th, 2026, time being 10 a.m., and we will start with the roll call.
Governor Lombardo,
Here.
Attorney General Ford,
Here.
Secretary Aguilar.
Here.
Let the record reflect we have a quorum.
All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 2, first opportunity for public comment. The first public comment period is limited to comments on items on the agenda. No action may be taken upon a matter raised under the public comment period unless the matter itself is specifically included on the agenda as an action item. The chair of the board has imposed a time limit of 3 minutes. Do we have any public comment there in Carson City?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Stacy Montooth, Executive Director of the Nevada Department of Native American Affairs. In the language of the Northern Paiute, Pisha translates to thank you. Pisha Governor Lombardo, Attorney General Ford, Secretary of State Aguilar, and Director Greenemeyer for assessing our pending interlocal agreement. With $141,106 from the State Public Health Fund's Priority Program moved to our agency, we will hire an employee to implement the future activities of the Tribal Health Authority Council. This is a group of Native professionals and subject matter experts who will prioritize health-related issues impacting the first people of this land and advising and assisting the Governor's Office and the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Health and Human Services. Today's convening is the next step in identifying the health needs and the solutions to improve the quality of life of our 28 tribal nations and the 80,000 tribal citizens who call Nevada home. Once again, Pisha.
Thank you. Is there anybody else for public comment there in Carson City?
No, sir.
All right, do we have anybody here in Las Vegas wishing to provide comment? All right, seeing none, we will close for the opportunity for public comment. Move on to agenda item number 3, approval of the March 18th, 2026 meeting minutes for possible action. Any questions or concerns? Motion to approve. All right, we have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Move on to agenda item number 4, state vehicle purchases for possible action. Ms. Grenemeyer.
Pursuant to NRS 334.010, no automobile may be purchased without prior written consent of the State Board of Examiners. This request is from the Department of Corrections. The department requests approval to purchase 95 vehicles for a total amount not to exceed $7,256,109. Are there any questions on this item?
Any question?
None here. Move approval.
All right, I have a question. Mr. Zarenda, are you going to respond?
Yes.
95, that's approximately half of your total fee.
That's correct.
Are you going to have the ability to purchase these before the end of the fiscal year?
So James Render for the record. So our intent is there's some of the vehicles are able to be purchased for the second half, all the way up to 27, which is our buses and our handicap vans, and the refrigerator trucks actually can be extended to the June 30th of 27. All the rest of the vehicles will be purchased and on site and equipped by June 30th is our intent of this year, 2026.
Okay, and if that doesn't happen, you have to
Revert the funds back.
Revert the funds. Okay. You feel comfortable with that timeline?
Yes, I do.
All right, with that being said, no further questions. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
All right, we have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 5, authorization to contract with a current and or former state employee for possible action. And we'll take them together, Ms. Grenemeyer.
Okay.
Unless you guys want them separate.
Okay.
Go ahead.
There are 2 requests under this agenda item. The first request is from the Governor's Finance Office. The office requests to contract with former employee Jim Wells to provide fiscal training for staff at various departments through a statewide contract with Manpower. The next request is from the Governor's Technology Office. The office requests to contract with former employee Kathleen McLaughlin to provide historical mainframe knowledge for the state's legacy systems through the statewide contract with Knowledge Services. Are there any questions on any of these 2 items?
Any questions?
No question. One motion. Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval on item 5A and B, correct?
Yes. 5A.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Did I hear you, Cisco?
Yes.
Okay. All right, motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 6, request for recommendation of approval to the interim finance committee for an allocation amount for the contingency account for possible action. And let's actually take those separately.
Okay. The first request is from the Department of Corrections, Prison Medical Care, pursuant to NRS 353.268. The department requests a recommendation to the Interim Finance Committee for an allocation of $4,149,382 from the Interim Finance Committee contingency account to cover outside medical treatment and pharmaceutical services.
Any questions?
No questions. Motion to approve 6A.
So, Director Zarenda, before we entertain the motion, this is separate of the pods, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, the on-med pods are a separate issue. Separate item.
Do you have any concerns with this
Not at all.
particular issue?
Nope.
Okay. Hang on a second. Let me check my notes, please. All right. We have a motion for approval already there. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right, let's move on to 6B, please.
The next request is from the Department of Veteran Services. Pursuant to NRS 353.268, the department requests a recommendation to the Interim Finance Committee for an allocation of $492,884 from the Interim Finance Committee contingency account to fund an unanticipated shortfall at the Southern Nevada Veterans Memorial Cemetery due to a decrease in cemetery fees, increased utility costs, and higher contractual services costs. Are there any questions on this one?
Any questions?
No questions.
Entertain a motion.
Move for approval.
All right, we have a motion for approval on item 6B. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Let's move on to 6C, please.
The last request is from the Secretary of State's office pursuant to NRS 353.268. The office requests a recommendation to the Interim Finance Committee for an allocation of $233,704 from the Interim Finance Committee contingency account to fund a federal grant debt offset and the associated estimated interest. Is there any questions on this one?
Happy to explain it.
Sure.
So what happened was we received a federal grant through Help America Vote Act. Unfortunately, another Nevada agency did not file a report with the federal government, which they then took our money to fund the debt or the overspend of another agency. Even though
That was through veterans, I believe.
yes.
Okay,
And so what we're trying to do is just get that allocation back to us.
I understand. Any questions?
No.
All right.
Motion. Sure. Move approval.
All right, we have a motion for approval on item 6C. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 7, request for approval to pay a tort claim pursuant to NRS 41.036 for possible action. Okay, okay, if we take those together?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, we'll take both of them together, Ms. Grandmeyer.
There are 2 requests under this agenda item from the Attorney General's office pursuant to NRS 41.036. The first request is for claimant Jessica Kalia for a settlement amount of $180,000. The second request is for claimant Selena Ushaw for a settlement amount of $120,000. Are there any questions on any of these?
Questions on either
No
one?
questions. Motion to approve 7A and B.
All right, we have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 8. New, extended, or modified collective bargaining agreements for possible action.
There are 2 requests under this agenda item from the Department of Administration, Division of Human Resource Management, pursuant to
Hold on, Ms. Grandmeyer, hang on. Do you want them together?
I don't care. I'm fine.
You all right?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead and do them together.
Okay. Pursuant to NRS 288.555, subsection 1, the first request is for approval of an amendment to the collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Nevada CO Lodge 21, for the 2025-2027 biennium for bargaining unit I. This amendment adds Article 20.10 to the agreement with no fiscal impact. The next request is for approval of an amendment to the collective bargaining agreement with the Fraternal Order of Police, Nevada CO, Lodge 21, for the 2025-2027 biennium for bargaining unit N. This amendment adds Article 12.11 to the agreement with no fiscal impact. Are there any questions on these 2 items?
Any questions?
No questions. Motion to approve 8A and B.
I have a motion approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, let's move on to agenda item number 9, request for a grant from the fund to assist school districts in financing capital improvements pursuant to NRS 387.3335 for possible action.
This request is from the White Pine County School District Board of School Trustees. Pursuant to NRS 387.3335, the Board of School Trustees requests approval of a grant of $98,425,276 from the Fund to Assist School Districts in Financing Capital Improvements Bond Program. Are there any questions on this item?
I know the representatives are here. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Do we have any questions?
No questions.
No. Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve item number 9.
Item number 9, we have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Congratulations.
Congratulations, indeed.
Either merging two schools together. Yeah. All right, let's move on to agenda item number 10, request for approval of land lease agreement for possible action.
This request is from the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, Division of State Lands. Pursuant to NRS 322.007, the department requests approval of a lease addendum to add 5 years to the term of the current lease for the Carson City Chamber of Commerce at the Nevada State Railroad Museum located in Carson City. Are there any questions on this item?
Any questions?
No questions. Motion to approve item number 10.
All right, we have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 In my head, I do it.
All right, let's move on to item number 11, approval of proposed leases for possible action.
There are 11 leases under this agenda item for approval by the board. Are there any questions on any of the leases?
I have none.
No questions. Motion to approve item number 11, 1 through 11.
We have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We'll move on to agenda item number 12, approval of proposed contracts, possible action.
There are 51 contracts under this agenda item for approval by the board. Are there any questions on any of these items?
Yes, I have a question on contract number 45. That would be for Director Zorinda. And that was the question I had earlier on Med. Could you give me like a scheduling?
Yes. So these are for on-med telecommunication or telemedicine stations that are going to be added to Lovelock Correctional Center, Northern Nevada Correctional Center, and High Desert State Prison, with an expected, as long as there's no delivery issues, we're expecting to be on full, online, on the ground, running the first week in May of this year. What this service is going to do, it's going to actually be more preventative care for offenders for medical. You'll still see emergency room trips that go to the outside hospital. However, this is going to be more preventative. It'll allow the offenders to be seen before their medical issue deteriorates and requires outside hospital trips to the community. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow 8 in the morning to 8 p.m. 5 days a week for any offender that has a medical issue, or to be able to be seen that even as routine, to be able to see an actual physician or clinician that can actually assist in ordering medications, that can assist in providing care so that the care doesn't exacerbate into a serious illness. And that's where we're going to see, Dr. Williams has some metrics if you want to hear about it.
Sure.
The metrics will be able to show how we're going to be able to model and be able to see what it's going to do to overtime and outside hospital and overnight stays in the future.
That's the key question.
Yep.
What it's going to do for overtime and your scope.
Yes, sir. Dr. Ken Williams for NDOC. So the few metrics that I have discussed with OnMed so far, the two most common concerns that we hear back from the offender population are haven't been seen or I haven't had my medication refilled. So that shows up in grievances and man down. So I believe that by addressing their chronic care issues, that will decrease the frequency of man down calls, emergency calls from the population. It will decrease the number of grievances, complaints from the family members as well as the offender population. And then more directly, it will not decrease ER runs for trauma. That will not be affected. But the ER runs that occur as a result of their general health decompensating over time because they haven't been seen, those ER runs should decrease because we should be able to manage their chronic health more efficiently to keep them out of the hospital. And then once they are in the hospital, the average length of stay should decrease. That will also directly track back to overtime because the shorter period of time that they are admitted to the hospital will decrease the man hours for the correctional officers to have to sit on them at the hospital.
Perfect. So the request or the ask I would have is that you, starting day one, that you have a metrics or a tracking mechanism to ensure what we're hoping it'll do is actually doing it. So,
Yes, sir.
okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
That sounds fantastic, and I'm glad to hear this, as in the fact that it's anticipated to have on overtime. You know, we frequently hear from organizations like Return Strong and Mass Liberation Project. Have you been able to socialize this development with any of them? Gotten any feedback from those outside groups who advocate for the offender population?
So not with Mass Lib, but with Return Strong. They've been involved in it from the beginning. They've been going over and explaining what this is going to do so they can explain it to the families. But they've been involved in the process the whole time. This is only at 3 locations now. We're going to show the success of this, so we will be able to do this statewide. And we'll have also the impact of what the families are going to be saying, what they're hearing, and what the impact that it makes on the offender population that the families see. I think that's going to show us what we got to do statewide. This is only those 3 locations right now.
My presumption is that Return Strong has been favorable or delighted to hear what you're talking about here.
Anytime we add any type of medical service, they're delighted.
Very good. Okay, thanks.
Is there any space issues?
None.
No.
Not in these 3 locations. I don't think there will be anywhere. They're the size of the units are 12 foot by 8 foot. And they,
Oh, they're an actual pod.
yeah, they're actual pods, and we can build them where we need to.
Okay.
That's good.
All right, if there are no further questions on any contracts, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve contracts 1 through 51.
1 through 51, we have a motion for approval. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, let's move on to agenda item number 13, approval of proposed master service agreements. Possible action.
There are 62 master service agreements under this agenda item for approval by the board. Are there any questions on any of these ones?
Done here.
No questions.
Approval.
We have a motion for approval of item number 13. All those in 62?
Yes.
62 each. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, let's move on to 14, which is informational only item, clerk of the board of contracts.
There are 83 contracts within the threshold of $10,000 to $99,999 that were approved by the clerk of the board from February 7th through 2026 through March 12th, 2026. This item is informational. Are there any questions on any of these items?
No question?
None here.
All right, let's move on to agenda item number 15, information item reports, Governor's Finance Office.
This report is from the Governor's Finance Office Budget Division pursuant to NRS Chapter 353. The division presents a reconciled fund balance report of the following accounts as of March 17th, 2026. Please note the meeting materials include the specific amounts while the approximate balances are as follows. Tort claim fund is $630,000. Statutory contingency account is $5 million. Stale claims account is $2.5 million. Emergency account is $370,000. Disaster relief account is $16 million. IFC contingency unrestricted general fund is $48.7 million. IFC contingency unrestricted highway fund is $1.6 million. IFC contingency restricted general fund is $147.9 million. IFC contingency restricted highway fund is $6.9 million. Extradition coordinator budget account 1002 is $1.2 million. This item is informational. Are there any questions on any of this?
None here.
Cisco? Yeah. All right. All right, thank you. We'll close agenda item number 15 and move on to the second opportunity, public comment. Public comment there in Carson?
We don't have anybody in Carson, but I believe we have somebody on the phone.
Hi, I'm in Las Vegas. My name is Faana. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, go ahead. Can you state your full name?
Yes. Good morning, Governor and board members. My name is Faana Guild. I am a forensic accountant and ISO certified auditor. I am here to report a statewide regulatory failure involving Nevada real estate case number 26E002353 and a documented public health crisis under the Nevada of Law Agency. The state was put on notice of a mass exposure event involving 27 victims on February 27th, 2026. Because this knowledge is legally imputed to Director Sanchez and AG Ford, the ongoing failure to act constitutes administrative nonfeasance. The critical audit findings is my audit of the state's response reveals 3 systemic red flags that demand this board's intervention. Statutory ignorance. Chief Investigator Rebecca Bruce initially denied jurisdiction, claiming this was a simple landlord-tenant matter. I formally corrected the record. This is a salesperson fraud under NRS 645-633-1H and I. Licensed actors knowingly concealed 140,000 toxic Stachybotrys spores from consumers. Evidence destruction because Nevada Real Estate Department sat on hand-delivered evidence for 20 days before assigning an investigator. State licensed actors were permitted to dispose of physical evidence on January 17th. This is a material breach of the public trust under NRS 645.635. Conflicts of interest. We have documented that the licensees attempted to steer the investigation using a vendor unlicensed 5-star restoration, confirmed with Elisabetta Talia Quesa. Her email conflict of interest to issue a no-mold claim directly contradicting independent lab results. The fiscal barrier and malice. Furthermore, I am exposing a pay-to-play justice system. LVMPD is currently demanding a $1,334 fee to release body-worn camera footage of an unarmed entry conducted during an active judicial stay. As the board overseeing the state's fiscal integrity, you must recognize that this fee is an economic barrier used to suppress evidence of the state misconduct. In an ISO compliant system, this was flagged as a major non-
Ms. Gill, your time is up. We appreciate your comments. Do we have any public comment here in Las Vegas?
Mr. Superintendent?
Yes, sir.
He doesn't want to.
No, I was scared.
Are you just messing with him?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm going to answer your question.
All right, we'll close this second opportunity for public comment, and I'll make a motion for adjournment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Are you familiar with it? Not at all. He submits it.